The work up here is under the theme of escape. So there's 8 Seas artists based in Deal, but we come up regularly here to the Pie Factory in Margate because it's a great venue to show. Escape is really, the background is the pandemic, being locked down, and what people did in those 2 years or so and coming out of it. All artists have had some thought about how they've responded to that period.
I escape into nature. So I wander with my dog every day and I take photographs of different things that I see and they inspire my artwork. So my mosaics are made in the conventional way using a 20mm tile, but also I use a technique called pique-assiette, which is French for pattern. So I take the pattern that I see on crockery and I cut that pattern off of the crockery. So I use things like plates, cups and teapots. My work is not just mosaic, it's glass fusion. So the Kingfisher is a glass fusion piece.
For me, escape was about reassessing what I was doing. During COVID, I really started to look at the type of work I was doing. I found pre-COVID, I would go out and look at many landscapes, seascapes, architecture, and be intrigued by it and photograph it. And I think during COVID, I sat down and thought a lot more about what I was doing and why I was doing it. And it sort of led me back to my background, which most of my life I'd been in photography and typography, working for publishers. So I started looking at a lot more about typography in the environment, in architecture, in landscapes. And I was really drawn to a lot of local buildings and started to look at the way typography is used on shop fronts, retail buildings, in the way that places like the harbour at Folkestone, the lighthouse at Folkestone, and the way that the typography was being used.
So some of my paintings incorporate three-dimensionality and painting, but I love doing paintings of what I would say were transitional spaces where things meet other things, like the surface of a river meets like the fish that's underneath the water. So I think my love of water and the light on the water comes from Monet.
I was an art teacher for many years. I've always been a painter, and I've always loved the pointillist way of painting. And I've explored it quite thoroughly in some of these. A style of painting that is very well suited to painting, to trying to get effects of low light. Pointillism gives you a grainy effect, a bit like pixels, and this is what this is a trick that the eye plays on you when you're looking at in the dark. The view from my pillow, when you're lying down, looking back up, you see things at funny angles. Looking back up at the window above the head of my bed. On the windowsill is a table lamp, and on the wall in the corner is a rather dark painting.
So the whole escape theme for me, sort of two meanings really. So there's the escape with the pandemic, being locked down, every day was the same. There was never the feeling you needed to actually get on with things. You could always leave it till tomorrow. So that was always a sort of running excuse. But also there's an artist block thing about it, because I've found problems coming back to doing artwork after many years, that how do I get things through to a finished piece? And often you sort of start off well and everything's going fine, and then it sort of reaches an impasse. So this one's a case in point. So this one started off actually as Trafalgar Square. There was a whole crowd scene going on there. And I got to a point where I really didn't feel it wanted to go on anymore. So it became something quite different. Really just thought, let's just start again. So the nice thing about not having a blank canvas is it's sort of a different entity. So you've got all this stuff that's already happening, but you sort of ignore it, and you recreate something over the top of it. But you can use some of what's there to build on into something completely different.